This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Opinions expressed. Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Join Terry with Tracer Rounds every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central to hear interviews with veteran artists, veteran business owners, and businesses that support veterans. Tune in to see if you're on target. Catch us on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and MB Radio, giving veterans a voice.
Hi, welcome back to Tracer Rounds, and I'm Terry, your host, and this is Tracer Rounds on a special night. We have a special edition Tracer Rounds. Usually you catch us on a Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, but today we're at 5 p.m. Central, and we're talking to a candidate for Texas Congressional District number 33 here in Texas, and this is Kurt Schwab, and he is a veteran, and so we are giving this veteran his voice because on MBR we give veterans their voice. So welcome to the show, Kurt.
Hi, Terry. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, you're welcome, of course. So first of all, I kind of like to have our audience hear a little bit about your background, and then we'll kind of go on your platform and what you're running for and why, if you don't mind.
Sure. I'm a former police officer. I'm a former assistant director for the USO at St. Louis Lambert Airport, director for the USO at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I'm a published author, an 18-year Air Force veteran. I was a C-130 loadmaster in the Air Force in Iraq and Afghanistan with 2,000 hours of flight time and about 300 hours of combat time, all within around 3 months.
Wow. Well, thank you for giving us a little bit of your background. So you're running for Texas Congressional District number 33. Why are you running?
You know, the leadership that we've had in there has been the only person in that seat since the district has been redrawn over 10 years ago. Wow. I feel more and more people are talking about the district, how it's stagnant, or nobody knows who their representative is, no return phone calls, no nothing. So it's time that we start making change and we get the leadership in there to help us progress, not only the district or the veterans in the district, but the district as a whole, which will also in turn help Texas move forward. As you see, we've already started with new leadership.
Yes, indeed. So if for those that don't know, the congressional district is kind of like oddly shaped, and it covers Dallas and Tarrant counties, which would be Dallas and Fort Worth, and then some cities in between, correct?
Correct, yeah. So the folks here in the DFW area, it goes along Highway 35 south, just past the Miller Coors Brewery and the Benny Keith area. It bypasses the downtown Fort Worth itself, but it engages back into the Stockyard area, goes all the way up to Eagle Mountain Road, and then back east, and you've got Watauga, Saginaw, a little bit of Arlington, Irving, Farmers Branch, Capel, North and South Dallas. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's very oddly shaped. I looked at the map and I was like, I don't even know who was drawing that when they drew that, because it's pretty crazy how it cuts in and out of different cities and whatnot. So I was wanting to talk about your platform. And so one of the things that's important to you, according to your webpage, is healthcare. And
Right.
so you talked about creating mobile units to come out to communities that are underserved to provide them healthcare. And you talked about using DoD access to do that. Is it something similar to what happened with COVID when DoD came in and ran all the COVID clinics?
To a point, but I think we need to extend beyond that. If we take even half the money, stop half the money that we're sending overseas for aid packages, say, for instance, to Ukraine, Biden just sent over the last, $2.2 billion for that aid to end that aid package. If we take half of that, keep it within the DoD area, let's put it back into the Guard and reserve bases. Let's bring the folks, instead of deploying them overseas, let's bring them to the local areas to help our own communities. These would be for folks who are, let's say we cap it at $40,000. Anybody under that, we would still give them health care. But the mobile units would also provide a center point for the folks who can't get out. So, for instance, if we set up at a church or a community center that's going to be close to the neighborhoods, it gives these folks an opportunity to get out instead of saying, I can't make it. I have nobody to take me.
Yeah.
So it's time that we start reaching out and taking care of our own communities instead of trying to be king of the entire world.
That's an interesting concept, and I think it does work. Home health care has been a new offering for a lot of fire departments. In Arlington, for instance, they have the paramedic program where they go out to individuals' homes and provide services to keep them out of the hospitals, when they're just kind of a repeat patient, basically, because they can't care for themselves or won't care for themselves or don't have resources to care for
Sure.
themselves. So it kind of sounds like you're offering kind of the same thing, bringing the medical assets to the community that's underserved or the areas that are underserved.
Yeah, but just in a bigger scope. The other thing it's going to do too is if we start bringing back our Guard and reserves to do this, we're going to create more jobs. We're going to help the economy in the different communities. It's just all out. I think it's a better plan than sending our money overseas.
You also mentioned in your on your webpage about closing the Veterans Administration and the VA hospitals and having veterans go to their community resources, their doctors, whoever they choose, and rather than going to one central location for their care. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? About your implementation?
As much as people need it, I think the VA needs to shut down. The VA has fallen short in several different areas between budget, staffing, just all kinds of things. There's a whole host of items listed. But, if we close the VA down and let the veterans choose their own family doctors to go to, in the long run, they'll save, the VA budget will save travel money for those folks who have to travel an ungodly distance. We'll save on staffing, fraudulent staffing. We're going to save on doctor-patient abuse, both physically and mentally. If you've seen, there's been nothing but story after story across the country with staff abusing patients. It needs to stop. You know, the VA secretary, or the upcoming VA secretary, is an Air Force veteran, chaplain. He's saying the same old thing as every other director has said. We need to get better health care. We need to expand the opportunity for veterans to get in and see their doctors. They want to open up community care. But here's the thing with community care. You have to get the approval through the VA first.
Yeah.
We should not have to do that, because the VA, as you know, they have people working that may or may not be veterans, so they don't understand. And this all needs to change.
Well, you know, they did roll out something a while back where if a veteran didn't have a VA close to them, that they could go to their own private doctor. So basically, you're just talking about expanding that type of program and then just doing away with the VA, even though we do need them for some things, though, because there's some things that a private doctor or facility wouldn't be able to offer the veteran, like some of the VA services that are offered at the center. So how would you navigate those things? Would you keep like I don't know if would you a standalone building for some things that the VA would do for the veteran, because medical care is just one piece of it. There's other parts and components to the VA, like assistance with other programs and like registering for things. So they do offer more things than just the medical piece.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of people out there and organizations that do the exact same thing as the VA does. The VA seems to walk around with a crown on their head thinking they are the king of everything. But even with going to community care, they still have to get approval if it's more than 30 days. So, you know, there's no reason for it. As a veteran and the other folks out there, we've already done our hurry up and wait. It's time for us to be released and let us go on our own accord. The VA facilities, if they shut down, you know, the commercial sector, if you see, they're always building new hospitals or whatever the case is. You know, let's make deals and get those people into the VA buildings. That way the VA sites are still there for veterans. There's no reason why the VA should be open.
That is an interesting concept, is to keep the buildings and then bring in private health care into the building to do the actual care of the veteran, and then maybe let the VA do some of the other things it does, but take that piece away from them. That makes sense.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, and we don't have to sell the buildings, you know, let the commercial side lease the buildings from the government. You know, the VA hospitals already have all the stations there that are needed, the same as the commercial side. So I think it's time that the VA starts shifting gears and letting the veterans take care of their lives instead of worrying about somebody who's never served telling us that we can't get it. So here's a for instance. There's a veteran I know who was talked to his doctor about home health care.
Yeah.
The doc had asked him, apparently, how much time do you think a week would be needed? And the veteran told him 3 hours should be fine. Well, later on down the road, the veteran started feeling better, and he wanted to start walking longer, walking more, getting more exercise. So he called his doctor to get more time. His doctor said, well, we got to take it to the social worker. The social worker came back and told that veteran, they're not going to approve it, but you can appeal it. So that's just one item. You know, why should a veteran have to worry about that? If a veteran is wanting to better himself, now we have the VA blocking him from being able to do it.
Or putting hoops to jump through in the way of just making that decision. Yeah, that makes sense.
Sure.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Sure.
So the other thing that you had put on your platform was border security and immigration. can you tell us a little bit more about your stance on that? I know that you said that you wanted to take funding away from Vision Quest and Southwest Key, and those are two organizations that partner that they offer for unaccompanied minors. They offer care and a place to house until they can find family or return them, whatever needs to happen. But can you tell us why you think that you should take the funding away from them, and what your stance is on the border and immigration in general?
Whatever the idea is, people from other countries want to come here and want to become an American, which is great, and we should be proud of that. However, no matter their status, they need to do it the correct way and not just try crossing the border, not to, whatever the case is. We should not have to pay for that. It's their problem. Send them back over and let their medical folks handle it. It may sound harsh, but it's coming out of our taxpayers' money.
Yeah. So I read on there that you said you wanted to finish the wall. So what do you think about our border in Texas? How secure or insecure or not secure is it, in your opinion? I know that we've had an influx in our area. I know Arizona's had an influx, in California. I mean, everyone that borders Mexico has had, immigration issues. I think compounding over the last 4 years.
Sure.
Where do you think we're at with that?
Well, President Trump has already started. We sent 15 troops down to the border. That's a good start.
Yeah, 1,500.
1,500, yes.
Yeah.
I think we need to send more down until the wall is completed. And then we need to beef up our staffing on Border Patrol, ICE, and so forth to start patrolling the area. And I think once we get a handle on that with the military help, I think we'll be back in order.
Yeah, I was surprised that he was already sending more troops down there. When I heard that, I was like, that's a lot of folks already headed to the border to assist with immigration. So obviously he does feel like that is an issue for the U.S. and for Texas in general, to send that many that way. So another thing that you had on your platform was taxes. So tell me about the national tax you would want to propose, and how would you implement something like that?
So I know everybody I've talked to, even on Facebook, it's nothing about get rid of property tax. At first, if you got rid of property tax, people would say, how would you pay for other items that's out there? So if we got rid of property tax, if we bumped up a national, or let's say we had a national sales tax or a statewide flat tax, if we bumped it up a penny or half a cent, that's going to take care of a lot of stuff. If we bump up the price of car registration, that's going to help. But property tax, I know at first people wanted veterans to have no property tax. Then it was just POWs and 100% rated veterans that were rated, no property tax. But we're at a point now, let's just get rid of it. I think it's a better deal for everybody and not just certain individuals. There are other ways for the state to not only make the money and to reap benefits from it, but to also maybe come down and put them to the test on spending the money more wisely.
Well, city budgets are based on property tax as well. And so city budgets, what would we do with the cities? We couldn't afford police, fire. We couldn't afford public works. We couldn't afford water. We couldn't, parks and all the recreation programs that we do. How would we fund that if we didn't have property tax?
Well, again, it's, you're looking at, if we raise the cost of car registration, other items like that. This raises sales tax, do a flat tax. The cities are still getting funding from the state, which is getting funding from the federal government. It's just a matter of picking and choosing what area to do that would do better for the communities.
Well, one of your platform items too is about teachers and salaries, and so property tax and that type of thing helps with schools. So what would you do in that case? Because if we're doing a flat tax, I don't know if we're going to have enough to fund schools and to fund teachers and raises and things like that. So how would you navigate that?
Well, we've got, I just had this conversation today with James Matlock, who is running for Railroad Commission here. We talked about school funding, the $10,000 per child that goes to the schools, which the school keeps whether they do homeschool or not. And that's being funded by the federal government. So somewhere along the line, the money's still coming from the federal government. Now, again, if we get rid of the property tax, they're already looking at getting ready. Somebody's trying to attack the IRS and get rid of it. There's other ways that we can create funding. And especially if we stop taking care of the illegals in their medical pay and their housing, offering them free housing and so forth. I mean, there's just so many more ways to deal with it than always giving our money out.
You mentioned equipment on your platform too, about first responders and veterans having, top of the line equipment and the resources they need to do their jobs. What would you suggest when it comes to that?
Yeah, the first responders need top-notch, up-to-date equipment. We're seeing more and more new fire department buildings being built. We're seeing newer police stations. I know there's equipment out there similar to night vision goggles that now can see better or see through things during the day. I know a lot of them are shorthanded, a lot of them are short-staffed, but it's the fact of the pay. A lot of times, the officers aren't getting paid well enough. So I know when I was a police officer back in the 90s, of course, the folks didn't have the equipment back then as what is even offered today.
Right.
And one of the funniest comments that was ever made, instead of chasing after somebody in the car, nobody can ever outrun a radio.
That's true.
So
that's true.
But there's just better equipment out there today. There's better funding for it, and it needs to be laid out for the officers to have or the opportunity to get.
Well, for recruitment, I know for police officers, it's not as hard for fire department employees, but for police officers, it's really hard to recruit right now because other things pay similar, even though they're offering big incentives to be police officers because they're offering lateral transfers and they're offering all these things that incentivize being a police officer. There's just so many that say, well, I can make more money doing something else and not put myself at risk. So it really comes back to public service, and it really comes back to what's important to the individual because, the pays right now are pretty darn good, I think, for police officers. I mean, everybody across the Metroplex wide has really recruited, and they even recruit out of state, and they offer really good salaries. We get people from California applying. We get people from all over the place. So I think our police officers are being taken care of in the way of salaries. But, like you said, maybe the equipment isn't up to speed, or maybe the facilities that they need or the vehicles, maybe those could be, we could do more for that. But, I really say in this day and age that police are really are sought after. People that want to be recruited to be police officers are lateral transfers from another department, and they really are being paid a good salary to come, but it's just hard to recruit at this point because, the police aren't as seen in as good of light as they used to be. Like being a police officer used to be an honor and people would covet that position. And then now with everything that's going on, it's hard. It's harder to recruit because, not everyone sees law enforcement in the same light anymore. Sure. That makes it hard. So the other thing you had talked about was low-income families and single-parent families. And what was your thought on helping them?
Single parents, some don't have jobs, some have 3 jobs. If they can't afford to pay bills all the time, then how are they going to be able to pay for their kid to go to school? With the homeschooling for a lot of kids, if we were able to approve the school to give the money that they're receiving to the families who choose or have to do homeschool, I think that would help out a lot. For the daycare, there's a lot of programs out there, but I think if we make a cap on salary, say $40,000, I think they need to be offered free daycare, make it easier to get approved instead of going through a bunch of red tape. It just seems like nobody really gives thought about that. And I'm going to tell you, I don't have the all out perfect answer for any of this. What's on my website, as far as my points go, these are ideas. These are things that I've seen in the community, things that I want to try to do and help, like with my veterans organization. We've helped veterans all across the country. Being a cop, I've helped folks in the community. So all I want to do is broaden the horizon in helping people throughout the different communities. And I think if we have somebody that's not worried about what kind of perks they get while in Congress, or not showing their face around town, or not reaching out to the community at their time of election or campaigning, it's time that we start getting people in there to start actually taking care of the community. And here's a example. There's a pastor in South Fort Worth who deals with the community and youth down in Stop 6 area. Yeah. We just had a meeting a few days ago, and we're planning on doing a barbecue, like a picnic for the kids, the Saturday before Palm Sunday. Give them baskets and hot dogs and a bounce house for them. People who are running or who are in office, they don't do that. Once they're in, they're in. They don't have to worry about it. But they have to have the heart to continue to serve the community, and not only by passing a law here and there, but by actually getting out there and doing stuff with them. You got to show the people you care about them.
That's true. So I know we're going to wrap things up here pretty quick, but what makes you the best candidate for this job?
Well, real quick, I want to mention this weekend, James Matlock took me around to a bunch of orphan wells. And with Trump's 3 big words, drill, baby, drill now, I want to say that this is an opportunity for veterans to start looking at small business, because I'm a big small business advocate on that. So whether you are in the industry or get out of it, or maybe just think of something, but this is a perfect time for the veterans to get out and start doing something for themselves. I've always worked with the community. I want to take this to the next level and use it as a platform to help folks on a broader spectrum. being humble in a lot of places. Whether you say 10 words or you talk for a half hour, as long as the people know you're out there, and they know that you care about them, I think we'll go a long way. I mean, we're already booked all the way through July with events here in Texas. I've got 3 speaking engagements across the country already. So this is going to be a good year for everybody.
So if they want to find out more, or if somebody wants to support your campaign, how would they get in touch with you? Is that website that we've got at the bottom of the screen, is that the best way? Or how would you suggest they engage with your campaign or with your run at this seat?
Yeah, no, the campaign on the screen is good. I'm happy to give you my number, 817-896-0040. Whether you live in the district or not, I'm going to ask for your support if you like what you read or like what you heard. I'm always open to suggestions, ideas, whatever the folks have. I just want to thank everybody for their service, all the veterans who are listening, and we're going to do what we can.
Well, thank you for being on the Tracer Rounds podcast today, and good luck with your run at the Congressional District 33 seat. And so when does that campaign officially kick off? Is it April when you officially announce and that whole campaign starts? I know you're already planning now, but
yeah, we're looking at April 26th is the official kickoff in Tarrant County. James Matlock and I also have a fundraiser coming up June 28th at the Texas Gun Experience. It'll be food, a chance to shoot a Gatling gun, machine gun, and you'll be able to find all that information on my website.
Well, that sounds great. And so when is the election? When's the official election?
The primaries are March of 26.
However,
to register to be on the ballot, we are around 10 months away from doing that. So the year is already pretty short.
Fully in the campaign mode right now.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. And today we heard from Kurt Schwab, who is a veteran, Air Force veteran, and he is a former law enforcement, and he is running for Texas District 33. And so, yeah. Kurt, we wish you much luck. And if you want to come back on the show and say anything, you're welcome anytime.
Yeah, Terry, thanks again. I appreciate it. And I'm going to tell everybody, whether you live in the district or not, I'd really love your support. But we'll keep everybody up to date on the campaign, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Well, thank you. Tracer Rounds is out.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us, giving our veterans a voice.